is Techstrong TV.
Hi everybody, Mitch Ashley here. I am at Atlassian Team 24 in Las Vegas, talking with a lot of fascinating people. We have another person here who was with Atlassian for a relatively short period of time, just joined about 4 months ago. Axel Sooriah, welcome. Good to be talking.
Hi, thank you. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, great chatting with you. So you tell us what you're doing at Atlassian. We'll talk about a little bit about that transition because we both worked in the startup world and we know that's often very different than joining an established company, but tell us about your role.
So I'm a product management evangelist at Atlassian. I've joined, like you said, 4 months ago. Before this, I've worked in startup scale-ups, also large enterprise for the past 10, 12 years. And the last 3 years before joining Atlassian, I ran a product management consultancy in Europe, helping large scale-ups with their product management challenges through training, coaching, and consulting, which really helped me learn a lot about how some of the larger companies are adopting product management practices. We can talk a little bit about that. And I've also been running a pretty successful product management podcast these last 3 years. So
what's the name of it?
It's Product Squad.
Product Squad.
Yeah,
okay.
And usually I'm the one doing this, so this is a bit different.
The tables are turned.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know exactly what.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit. You know, I did consulting a couple times through my career. One of the advantages is you see a lot of problems, a lot of challenges people are working through, and even for the same problem space, the problem can be different.
Yeah.
Right? There are different stages. Every organization has its own DNA and how they think and work. What are the things that you think you took out of that consulting, your work there that you bring to Atlassian? This is not a job interview. You've already got the job, so you don't have to worry about that. Just you and me chatting, no pressure.
I think it's really interesting because as a consultant, often you're expected to be the expert, right? And you build up this idea that, you know, there's such a thing as a benchmark of practices in the industry and that people are probably at a certain level. And you hear a lot about big names, big companies, like the best tech companies, and you always think these guys know what they're doing. And sometimes when you get onboarded on a consultancy engagement with one of these companies and you start working with the teams literally on the ground in the trenches, you realize how a lot of them are actually left to fend for themselves. Like they're literally trying to figure this out.
Interesting.
So I've worked a lot with product management teams. And the interesting thing with product is it's still a maturing craft, right? So companies like, you know, what we call FANG, you know, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, etc., have been doing product management for a while. And most software companies now are trying to adopt these best practices of this craft that we're calling product management. But the reality is a lot of these companies that are trying to adopt these practices are not equipped to do it well. Lack of training, resources, but also just the fact that because it's a new craft, it's, you know, there isn't like tens of, you know, decades of background or history to actually inform how we distribute these best practices into these companies. So one of the things that I learned working with a lot of these companies is really to be empathetic with the teams and understand where they're coming from, and also doing our best to help them along the way, because a lot of the work involved in product management is actually collaboration, and there's a lot of friction involved. So we'll talk a little bit about Jira Product Discovery, but one of the reasons why we created the product was to remove a lot of this friction that happens across collaboration in product teams.
Excellent. You know, I think it's still maybe a misunderstood or not well understood discipline, right? And maybe it's not a discipline because everybody does it the same way. Who knows? You know better than I do where we're at in that. But the surface things you tend to see is competitive analysis, like what's the marketplace look like and who's got what strengths, what are our advantages, value proposition, et cetera. And also roadmaps and where are we going and customer input. But that's the output. There's a lot of things, you know, tons of things that go into communicating some of those things and probably other, you know, work product that they produce. What is the job of a product manager? How would you define it?
That's a really great question. And you're absolutely right on the fact that a lot of people don't actually share a common understanding of like what this job is. One of the things that we see is different companies have a different flavor of this role, right? For me, a product manager's role is really, really understanding in the most granular level what are the circumstances and struggles of their customers, of that target audience they're trying to address. Really understand like what are the motivations, the fears, the aspirations, the hopes of these people, and try and transpose that into what can we build to help them move from a situation of struggle to a situation of, hope, or basically an improved situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about delivering value to these end users. So at the core, that's the role of the product manager. It's interesting also because, no pun intended, but the product manager is at the confluence of literally every other working stream.
I see what you did there.
In the company.
Right.
And there's I would say it's a highly collaborative environment. So they have to be working with finance, with marketing, with the founders. So literally every other department in the organization. And that also comes with a bunch of challenges.
Absolutely. Here's a really good point. What you made me think of is, how do you create a product for a job that's done differently everywhere, right? And a lot of jobs, not everything is uniform, of course, but it's very fluid about what product management is at different organizations. Sometimes the answer to that is, well, we needed to build something for ourselves, and so we created this, and then we're taking that out to market because we think it's helpful that way. The other way is go talk to customers, go put requirements together, or whatever your approach is to creating a new product. For discovery, how did that come about?
So the interesting thing we did, I think 3 years ago, we started doing a bunch of research around this field in general, so product management. And one of the things we realized was not only, like I mentioned before, there isn't like an industry standard for how these activities are conducted around product management, and there's a lot of friction involved in building products, and even building products for people building products. So at Atlassian, in the Jira Product Discovery team, we are building this piece of software for other people that are building software, right? So there's a little bit of a meta side to it, which also brings its bunch of challenges. But I think the important thing for us is really understand what are some of the struggles of product managers in other organizations, right? And usually we've found out that there are three things that they're really struggling with. The number one thing is they're usually stuck in execution mode. So they're in a hamster wheel chasing tactical things.
We don't have time to do the right way.
Exactly. So when is the next thing going to ship, right? Always chasing the next thing. The second thing is prioritization. Prioritization is a painful and messy process in a lot of organizations, and there's a lot of struggle around it.
Everybody has an opinion, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of emotions involved. It's tricky. It's not easy. And the third thing is there's a lot of low-value reactive work in keeping people, especially stakeholders, engaged. So when is this next thing going to ship? Can you send me an updated version of the roadmap? So a lot of product managers, spend a lot of their time in these low-value areas where really they should be focusing on how can they build up customer knowledge to infuse their product decision-making skills and deliver the best experience possible for users, right? So these are some of the challenges we've identified, and this is why we built Jira Product Discovery.
So is the low value work, just to pick one of the three,
Yeah.
is that because you're spending all your time communicating and keeping people up to date of what's going on? Because that's obviously, it's an evolving thing that you're building, right? It doesn't
it's part of
start
the
at
work.
A and end at A, B, right?
Yeah.
It's a indirect path to there, or many paths would get you there. What is it that causes a lot of that low value work?
So there's a couple of things there. I think the communication part is really important. you want to keep your stakeholders engaged and aligned throughout the product delivery lifecycle, right? One of the challenges, though, is that before teams join Jira Product Discovery, they're usually spending a lot of time creating ad hoc presentations, probably in a PowerPoint and sending slides to...
Probably is their planning tool.
Exactly. And one of the challenges with that is the moment you produce that artifact, it's out of date because the teams are moving at pace all the time. So that's one thing. The second thing is, in a lot of companies, there's still a very important project management culture versus product management. What that means is a lot of these teams are spending a lot of time doing status updates. So like, this is where this current idea is tracking. Like, this is when we're going to ship this feature. So I think a lot of this can be mitigated and a lot of time can be saved if you bring people to collaborate around a central hub or what we call a home for the product managers and their stakeholders.
Cool. Well, let's talk about Jira Discovery. Is it surfacing some of the capabilities that are inherent within Jira, Kanban boards, and the tracking of things, or is it creating a new workflow? Because it's creating software is a very creative process.
Yes.
But creating a product, deciding what product you're going to use, as its own creative process.
Yeah. So let me just take one step back.
Okay.
So one of the interesting things about Jira Product Discovery and the research we did is we found out that product managers and product teams in general needed a separate space, as opposed to where the delivery work happens, where they can actually, like you say, get creative, right? Engage with the right people and work on this thing that is not yet, an opportunity or a solution, but it's in the early phases of that creative work. So we've leveraged the best of Jira platform, and we've built this home for product teams where they can basically list all of their ideas. And we've chosen this term idea because it's an accurate reflection of, where the start is, at the beginning. A lot of things are ideas. And then through time, they're going to be able to add insights to these ideas. Insights that can be used as pieces of evidence, for example, to back some of the decision making that they're going to do. So an idea over time is going to evolve and become richer and have more context, infused with customer knowledge. So it might be customer interviews, it might be data from market research, it might be results from a usability test with a prototype. So all of these pieces of information are gathered under insights within an idea. And product managers and product teams, so I'm including designers, engineers, stakeholders, program managers, project managers, all of these people can come in to Jira Product Discovery and collaborate, add comments. So we're using a lot of the primitives that already exist in Jira and the Atlassian portfolio. And it's really where the bulk of that creative process is going to happen. And the really interesting thing is that everything that's happening in Jira Product Discovery can be linked into Jira. So you can really follow the evolution of an idea all the way from it being an idea to the impact that you deliver to your end users.
It seems also then that part of that flow, that process, is when do ideas go from loosely shaped, we should kind of do whatever, wave your hands kind of thing, to this is taking form enough, we want to start looking at it seriously, and then how does it eventually make it into whatever your product requirement document or story or whatever it is that it goes into for your being built and delivered?
That's a great question. So there's this idea of, like you mentioned, the evolution of an idea, right? And different teams will use different frameworks to do this. So you might have heard of the prioritization framework called RICE. There are a number of other prioritization frameworks. So with Jira Product Discovery, teams can build in their own frameworks. So today we offer some of these out of the box that exist as templates for views. So there's this idea of custom views in JPD where you're basically slicing and dicing the same information you're basically slicing and dicing the same information in different views for different purposes. So for example, we talked a little bit about prioritization and road mapping. Let's say you have a product review happening in a couple of weeks and you want to show what an impact versus effort matrix of the current view of the world looks like, you can create a custom view to do that. If you have an upcoming product announcement where you want to share a roadmap, you can use boards, for example, to show roadmaps in the form of now, next, later. So what are the investment areas for the team across these 3 different lanes? You also have timeline views where you can actually see how the work is kind of scheduled through time. So it really gives teams this flexibility to produce different views for different purposes, all off of the same live data set, where previously they would be producing these, offline artifacts that get out of date literally at the point where they create them.
I just say, as soon as you hit save on the plan, that's the moment when it's out of date.
It's exactly.
It also seems like that timing is everything in the product world, right? So some ideas, it's not the right time for it. Just
Correct.
For whatever reason, and having that, but that can be forgotten too. So having that in some capability, we can say, let's bring that back and see where that would be a great, let's see if we can apply it here. It would be really useful. So and that was just a comment.
No, but that's true. Actually, one of the things that's really important for us is really to create a place where people feel like they can share any idea. And most ideas, and actually a lot of the great ideas, don't come from product teams. Sometimes they come from somewhere else in the organization. And we want to empower people to collaborate and bring in their ideas and then take these ideas through like this workflow, right? Of, capturing everything and prioritizing everything and engaging with the right stakeholders to make things happen.
Did you find, part of why I was asking about that is, did you find that product managers, product leaders were already using Jira and other tools as a substitute or as a current technology that they could do some of this work in, and by really surfacing it and really focusing on what that process looks like, maybe some of the same primitives, right?
Yes.
And capabilities, but the flow, the purpose, what you call things, a lot of things can be different when you really separate it from, like you say, the production.
Yes, that's a really great point. I think one of the things we realized is if you've worked in a product team or a software development team that has been using Jira, there is always this anxiety around, for a product manager, for example, of putting a ticket in Jira for a work that's not shaped up or committed, because the moment they put it in there, there's a number of very engaged people, developers for example, that will want to know like, what is this ticket, should we work on this next, etc. So they really needed like a separate space to do this, which is one of the reasons.
Almost like an incubation area
Exactly,
to help things evolve and take the shape they need.
100%. And to be fair, like a lot of teams before using Jira Product Discovery were doing some of this work in Jira. But most of the people that we're seeing adopt Jira Product Discovery today actually come from a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is the other universal no-code tool, right?
Exactly.
More or less. So it's been out less than a year, right?
Yeah, so it's been in beta for an extended period of time.
Okay.
And it came out in GA just less than a year ago, about 10 months ago. And it's one of Atlassian's fastest growing products today, with about 7,000 paying customers and even more evaluating it right now.
A lot of companies would kill for having 7,000 customers in under a year. What is the adoption model? What's the try it, buy it kind of progression look like for you?
Great question. So there's a free edition, which you can use if you're a small team. I think it's less than 3 people. And you can use it free forever, basically. And then there's a standard edition where you want to bring in more people, and we have 2 types of licenses. There's a creator license, which is basically one of the product managers, for example, who will want to create the custom views, add custom fields to their data, things like that. And then the second type is contributors. So a contributor can come and collaborate, create new ideas, but they can't create custom views or add fields, things like that.
Great. There's probably many transition points, but one of them is going from here's what the roadmap looks like and requirements, what's going to go into this next release or whatever, launch of a product, and then transition into kind of a go-to-market phase, right? Does Discovery help you either do part of that go-to-market, or here's the assets that you're going to do in some other environment to do that work?
That's a great question. One thing I want to mention is I talk a lot about product teams, but one of the things that's been super surprising and exciting for us is to find out how many non-product and non-tech teams use Jira Product Discovery.
Interesting. Okay.
So we've seen HR teams use Jira Product Discovery. We've seen compliance teams use Jira Product Discovery. And I think the interesting thing is in any workflow where there is some form of consolidating ideas in one place, refining these ideas and prioritizing them and then communicating with a broader audience, you could probably use Jira Product Discovery, right? So it's one of these, just like Jira is extremely flexible, Jira Product Discovery has the same flexibility, and we've seen it being used in so many different ways. So when it comes to transitioning from a product, from an idea to a product to how do we take it to market, we've seen a lot of product marketing managers collaborate with product managers in Jira Product Discovery. One of the things that's really powerful with Jira Product Discovery is even if we are what we call left of code, so anything before we actually write the code and build a piece of software, we get stakeholders involved. And one of these stakeholders could be a product marketing manager who wants to know, when do we think this is going to be ready for development? When do we think this is going to come out? And they can start working on, the artifacts that they need, the enablement material, anything you would expect around a GTM launch, for example, right? So one of the ways this persona uses Jira Product Discovery is by product managers bringing them way early in the creative discussions so that they're aware of what's coming down the line.
Fantastic. Many interesting things that you said in that. Turning that into artifacts and flowing into both production as well as go-to-market. But you also mentioned non-technical people, non-product people using, and it's kind of a theme that's coming out at this conference of the way we work in technology, the way we work in product. Workflow and ideation and all these things aren't unique to our world, right? Many people have it. Whether you're trying to launch a new education program and figure out what it's going to be and how do you form it. What is it? Storming, forming, and norming, kind of ideas. To manufacturing and other areas. So it seems like there's a lot of potential how you might either remap or use the same capabilities in discovery to say, yeah, product, but there's other things you can do with this. Do you see potential areas where this could be kind of a, let's not label it product, let's label it this kind of an activity?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, which is also on our mind. You will have heard of people talking about system of work. So we're trying to help technical and non-technical teams with their product management challenges, but also basically any team that is doing some form of, like I mentioned before, consolidation, prioritization, and communication with the rest of the organization. So right now our focus is on serving our core audience, which is teams that are building products and services for their own customers. But I think the natural evolution for us is to serve any non-technical team that can leverage this workflow to deliver value for their customers and impact their bottom line in a positive way.
Very good, very good. Anything happening at Team 24 for you in terms of announcements or anything happening with Team Discovery? You want to talk about?
So for Jira Product Discovery, we're announcing two things. The first thing is view publishing. So a lot of our users and customers have been wanting to be able to share some of their views, for example, a roadmap with different audiences that sometimes don't have an Atlassian license. Sometimes they sit outside the organization and they still want to share that information with them. So with view publishing, they'll be able to do that and to control the level of access of information that they're sharing outside. The second thing we're announcing is our premium edition. So we're launching an early access program for a premium edition in which we are bundling many features that are expected from typically a premium edition, like uptime, SLAs, AI. So these are the things that we're expecting to ship, and people can sign up for the early access program for premium right now.
Great. I want to try my own pun here. How do people discover Jira Discovery? Is it obvious, like, hey, I'm opening a ticket, I could go use Jira Discovery to do this?
There's a number of things we're doing. So if you're already a Jira user today, you might have seen a number of different experimentations that we do as a product team, where we'll introduce entry points like a call to action or a banner inside Jira, so that we'll basically nudge you and say, did you know you could create ideas for this, or upstream of development, you could start using Jira Product Discovery. So today, most of our users come from Jira. Otherwise, a lot of people, what they will basically do at some point is they are going to look for a piece of software that does prioritization and road mapping. And a lot of our users actually come from a good old Google search. So that's how they find us primarily. And I want to also thank our partners, because they do an amazing job of putting the word out there for Jira Product Discovery. So our partners have been extremely excited about the potential of Jira Product Discovery. They've been asking for something like this for a very long time. And prioritization and road mapping is such an intense and painful area for a lot of companies that, this for them is really a great opportunity. So partners also for us is a really great opportunity.
Great. Well, Axel, been fantastic talking with you. Axel
My pleasure.
Sooriah, who is product manager.
Product management evangelist.
Evangelist. I was going to say, there's a recursive loop there if you're a product manager for a product management solution.
Exactly.
Okay, you're the evangelist. You're okay. You're doing all right with Atlassian. So, Axel, thank you so much for stopping by, and
My pleasure.
check out Jira Discovery.
Thanks
We'll be
for having
back with another conversation.
Thanks for having me.